On April 26, 1986, the city of Chernobyl, 130 kilometers north of Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, which was part of the Soviet Union at that time, witnessed one of the most terrible environmental disasters in human history. The explosion at the fourth reactor of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant near the city of Pripyat released an amount of radiation equal to 50 times that of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima in 1945. After the explosion, clouds full of radioactive material affected many countries, including Turkey. According to some independent studies, the Chernobyl nuclear disaster caused the death of approximately 200,000 people directly or indirectly. Hundreds of thousands of children were born disabled due to the effects of the disaster, and it was claimed that cancer cases increased. The negative effects of the accident are expected to last for generations. The forest fire, which started in Chernobyl on April 4, 2020 and could only be brought under control after about 2 weeks, once again brought up the issue of how much risk the traces of the nuclear disaster pose today. The construction of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant started in 1970 in the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, which was then part of the Soviet Union. The city of Pripyat was established at a distance of 3 kilometers for the personnel working at the power plant and their families. The first reactor unit of the power plant went into operation in 1977. Later, with the completion of 3 more power units, annual energy production reached 29 billion kilowatt-hours. It was planned to turn the Chernobyl nuclear power plant into the world's largest nuclear power plant, with 12 reactors of 1,000 MW each. 2 reactors were under construction at the plant, which operated with 4 reactors before the explosion. The 4th unit, which suffered an accident, had been in operation for 3 years. On April 25, 1986, preparations for routine preventive maintenance work began on the 4th reactor of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. It was planned to test the turbine generator for use as an additional power source in case of an emergency in the future. It was decided to conduct the experiment at a power level of 700–1000 megawatts. The day before the accident, the reactor's power was reduced to approximately 1600 MW and the emergency cooling system was shut down for testing. At 23.10, the power level began to be reduced to 700 megawatts. Switched to auto power mode, but the power level dropped to 30 megawatts because the power off setting was not set to 700 megawatts. The duty operator tried to restore power and eventually started the test at 200 megawatts, a level below planned. At 1:23 on April 26, the emergency stop signal came on the dashboard. The operator pressed the reactor stop button and the control rods began to move down. The power level reached 100 times the nominal value in seconds. After the situation got out of control, 2 big explosions occurred a few seconds apart. According to eyewitnesses, a red flame rose in the first explosion and a blue flame in the second explosion, and then a huge mushroom cloud covered the power plant. Debates continued today about the real causes of the greatest nuclear disaster in human history. The State Commission, which was established in the Soviet Union to investigate the causes of the accident at that time, declared the plant personnel and management to be the chief responsible for the accident. Plant manager Viktor Bryahanov and chief engineer Nikolai Fomin were sentenced to 10 years each, deputy chief engineer Anatoly Dyatlov to 5 years, reactor supervisor Alexander Kovalenko to 3 years, shift supervisor Boris Rogojkin and supervisor Yuri Lashkin to 2 years in prison for violating safety rules. Sometime after the nuclear disaster, residents of the city of Pripyat and the 10-kilometer zone around the Chernobyl nuclear power plant were evacuated. The number of people evacuated from the 30-kilometer zone in May 1986 is shown between 116,000 and 350,000 in different data. The fire caused by the accident lasted for 10 days. About 380 million curie units of radiation were emitted into the environment by the impact of the explosion. An area of 200,000 square kilometers, 70% of which is located on the territory of Belarus, Ukraine and Russia, was under the influence of radiation. Clouds loaded with radioactive material after the accident spread to many countries in Europe. How many people lost their lives due to the disaster is still a matter of debate today. The nuclear disaster caused the death of 31 people working at the power plant in the first moment. But the real devastating effects of the accident came later. According to some independent studies, the Chernobyl disaster caused the death of approximately 200,000 people directly or indirectly. According to different data, between 600,000 and 800,000 officials in the Soviet Union participated in the efforts to eliminate the effects of the disaster. More than 70,000 of these people were permanently disabled. Maxim Kremen was one of the people who took part in these works in 1986-1987 and was later awarded the Medal of Honor. Due to the effects of the accident, 1.9 million people in Ukraine and 8.4 million people in Belarus, Russia, Ukraine and European countries were exposed to radiation. After the explosion, all the pine trees near the power plant turned red under the influence of high radiation and died. Almost all of the animals have disappeared. There were also different claims about the effects of the disaster on Turkey. The Turkish Medical Association drew attention to the fact that the disaster particularly affected the eastern Black Sea region in Turkey and that there might be a relationship between the cancer cases in the region and the disaster. Different officials, on the other hand, claimed that there was no evidence of a relationship between cancer cases in the region and the disaster. Nearly 4,000 square kilometers have been abandoned since the 1986 explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. The Forbidden Zone covers the territory of Ukraine and Belarus. The city of Pripyat, near the power plant, has turned into a ghost city. Agriculture is prohibited and new construction is not allowed in the region where there is radioactive pollution. There are police checkpoints 30 kilometers from the Forbidden Zone. However, despite this, the city has been the scene of many robberies and looting actions until today. It is stated that there is hardly a single apartment in the ghost city where valuables are not stolen. The last functioning reactor of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant was shut down on December 15, 2000. The wreckage of the nuclear disaster reactor was covered with a giant steel shield in 2016 to prevent radioactive leakage. Today, the deactivated Chernobyl nuclear power plant operates the state enterprise responsible for the safety of nuclear facilities and radioactive waste, environmental inspection and scientific studies. Projects to establish a solar power plant in the region and a nuclear fuel storage facility for Europe were also on the agenda.